Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning into This Is Now. We begin with a live look over on Kauai, where the Wailua Bridge has officially reopened to drivers following a severe weekend of heavy rain and some widespread damage over there on the Garden Isle.
Yeah, for those who don't know the area, Dylan, wouldn't you say this would be like the equivalent of the westbound H1 lanes being shut down?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
This is a very important thoroughfare for drivers there on Kauai, especially it's really the only way in and out of the east side of Kauai. So as you can see there, a lot of storm debris is still there. We have our team on the ground there.
And even though the bridge is open right now, there will be closures as crews work to repair it. Here's Eddie Dowd with a preview.
After 3 days, the southbound bridge here in Wailua on Kauai is now back open. That was after a drilling rig was kind of pushed onto the bridge after Thursday's heavy rainfall. But they say the next project is clearing out all this debris that remains stuck underneath the bridge. They say what didn't help was that Sunday's rainfall brought even more debris, and it will take probably at least a week to get that removed. But in order to do that, they will need to close down the southbound bridge again from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily to continue that debris removal. And there's also the effort to get that drilling rig that's now cut in half upright and then removed. They say there's no timeline yet for when that can be done, but they are working on the plan. Now, coming up in the later evening newscast, we'll talk about the recovery work and show you some of those efforts to clean up. Reporting on Kauai, Eddie Dowd, Hawaii News Now.
4 schools in East Honolulu are closed today due to overnight power outages. Those schools are Kaiser High School and Kamiloiki, Hahaione, and Koko Head Elementary Schools. The outage started back at around 2 p.m. Sunday. Power was knocked offline for thousands after 2 transmission lines which crossed the Ko'ola Mountains were damaged. Crews needed a helicopter to access the area, which wasn't possible during yesterday's weather. Repairs are expected to take some time. A graffiti threat circulating on social media has prompted Kamehameha School's Kapalama officials to cancel school today. In an email to families and staff, the school's campus leadership team said a photo of the graffiti was being shared on social media, threatening violence on campus. The school says they're working with the Honolulu Police Department to investigate the situation. The email continued on to say, though there is every indication that the report of a threat to the KSK campus is not credible, our campus leadership team has decided to approach this situation with an abundance of caution. Officials say bus transportation is also canceled for the day, and those boarding with the school are asked to remain in their hale as the investigation is ongoing. Anyone with information is asked to call HPD. A 32-year-old woman is in police custody accused of attempted murder in connection with a shooting in Waipahu. Officers responded to Pahu Street a little after 10 Saturday night. That's where they found a 32-year-old man who had been shot in the chest. Medics rushed him to the hospital in critical condition. We're told the suspect had a gunshot wound on her wrist. Sources tell us the pair lived together. No word on a possible motive. Loved ones continue to remember the 68-year-old woman who died after a shuttle bus crashed into a crowd of people at Honolulu's cruise ship terminal. Her identity has not been officially released, but family members are describing her as a wonderful person. She was celebrating her 46th wedding anniversary with her husband, who was also hurt but is expected to recover. The Visitor Aloha Society of Hawaii is working with Carnival officials to assist the family. 11 others were injured in Friday's crash. At least 4 have since been discharged from the hospital. The investigation into the crash continues. A twist in the case of an Arkansas man charged in the killing of Kealakekee High School graduate Allison Maria Castro in 2022. Our sister station, 5 News, was there when 30-year-old Casey Jennings pleaded not guilty. It came as a surprise to prosecutors who had reportedly been expecting a guilty plea. Castro's family made the trip there from Hawaii for the hearing. Jennings is accused of killing Castro and disposing of her body. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Israel says it will respond to this weekend's drone and missile attack from Iran, but the Biden administration is pushing Israel to make it a diplomatic response, not a military one. Skylar Henry has more.
President Biden praised the U.S. military's role in thwarting an Iranian attack on Israel over the weekend.
We mounted an unprecedented military effort to defend Israel. Together with our partners, we defeated that attack.
Israel's war cabinet met again Monday as they weighed their response to Iran. The Biden administration is saying it's up to the Israelis while calling for restraint.
In the 36 hours since, we have been coordinating a diplomatic response to seek to prevent escalation.
President Biden says the U.S. will continue to provide defensive support to Israel, but he raised concerns about escalating tension in the Middle East. It's already high because of the Israel-Hamas war.
We're committed to a ceasefire that will bring the hostages home and preventing conflict from spreading beyond what it already has.
Israel continues to launch airstrikes on the southern Gaza city of Rafah ahead of what is expected to be a ground invasion. The U.S. has objected to an invasion of Rafah because more than 1 million Palestinian refugees are currently sheltering in the city. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
Pro-Palestinian protesters snarled traffic in California's Bay Area this morning. They completely blocked southbound lanes on the Golden Gate Bridge. The protesters chained themselves through tubes to other people inside cars. It's a formation known as a sleeping dragon, and it makes it very difficult for police to detain participants. Officers called in tow trucks to remove vehicles protesters were using. Police arrested more than a dozen people and began reopening lanes after the hours-long closure. Protesters also chained themselves to concrete-filled barrels on Interstate 880 in Oakland. A similar protest in Chicago blocked access to O'Hare Airport for hours, but the protesters there only sat in the street and were much easier to clear out.
Pre-trial arguments and jury selection began today in the Donald Trump hush money trial. It's the first ever criminal trial of a former U.S. president. CBS's Jared Hill is at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with the latest details.
Returning from a lunch break, a thumbs up from former President Trump as he began the second half of day one in his hush money trial. It's the first of 4 criminal trials the Republican presidential candidate faces. Earlier, he slammed at the proceedings, which could take more than 6 weeks.
This is really an attack on a political opponent, that's all it is.
Trump faces 34 felony counts, accused of falsifying business records to hide payments former fixer Michael Cohen made to adult film star Stormy Daniels ahead of the 2016 presidential election. Trump has pleaded not guilty.
This is an assault on America.
Monday afternoon, the first batch of 96 potential jurors enter the courtroom. More than 500 Manhattan residents are there to be considered for the 12 spots. The lengthy juror questionnaire asks if they've ever attended a Trump rally or if they follow the former president on social media.
The defense is very interested in seeing if they can show that through the jury selection that they can't really get people who might be quote unquote fair and impartial. They will continue to move for a change of venue.
Prosecutors asked the judge to hold Trump in contempt for allegedly violating his gag order with 4 social media posts attacking Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, both potential witnesses. Prosecutors want the posts removed and Trump to pay a fine. They've asked the judge to remind Trump that he could be jailed for further violations. The former president's defense claimed he was only responding to attacks, but the judge said he did not recall an exception to the gag order. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
A movie weapons supervisor has been sentenced to 18 months in prison for the fatal shooting of a cinematographer by Alec Baldwin on the set of the Western film Rust. A New Mexico judge announced the sentence Monday against movie armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed, saying had it not been for the armorer's recklessness, Helena Hutchins would be alive. A tearful Gutierrez Reed was unsuccessful in her plea for a lesser punishment. The armorer's 2-week trial and conviction was a prelude to the proceedings against Alec Alec Baldwin, who has pleaded not guilty to a charge of involuntary manslaughter in the death of Hutchins. He is scheduled for trial in July. Back here at home, firefighters raced to extinguish a boat fire late yesterday afternoon in Waikiki. At noon today, investigators deemed the fire was an accident. They said it was ignited by an arc in the boat's electrical system. The vessel was docked at the Alawai Yacht Harbor. We're told no one was on board. Officials are now trying to track down the owner. Damage was estimated at $5,500. Saying goodbye to a Hawaii legend, a funeral service for Sumo great Akebono was held in Tokyo over the weekend. The Hawaii-born former Yokozuna died of heart failure earlier this month at age 54. In 1993, Akebono became the first foreign-born sumo wrestler to attain the sport's highest rank of grand champion. He helped raise the popularity of sumo in the 1990s, along with rivals like Japanese Yokozuna brothers Wakanohana and Takanohana. The State Health Department is seeking proposals for ambulance companies to improve services on Kauai and Maui counties. The new contract will require ambulances to be staffed with a paramedic and a second responder who is at least an EMT, and Molokai will have 2 ambulances instead of 1. The current contract is held by Falk, which said it will submit another bid to deliver the best-in-class services. Federal officials are now looking into the recent recall of certain Ford Broncos and Escapes. Nearly 43,000 of the SUVs made in 2022 and 2023 are impacted. The vehicles could have cracked fuel injectors that can cause gas leaks and ignite engine fires. No injuries have been reported because of this issue so far. The NHTSA says the new investigation is to evaluate if the recall adequately addresses the issue. And today is the deadline for eligible Verizon customers to sign up for money from a legal settlement. It's for customers who used Verizon services between 2016 and November 2023, a time when Verizon is accused of deceptively charging fees. The company denies the claim, but a settlement was reached. Those eligible can get up to $100. You can find a link on our website. Well, the deadline is here to file your taxes with the IRS. Ivan Rodriguez has more on what people need to know.
The IRS says millions of taxpayers across the country will be working during these final hours to file their tax returns. Most filers have until midnight, but there are some who get an extra day or two if they live in Maine, Massachusetts, or D.C. because of observed holidays. Experts say it's also important to remember that there are resources for last-minute filers.
Tax day is here, and if you haven't filed yet, you're not alone. But experts say if you haven't started, you may actually want to wait.
Haste makes waste. And when we rush to do things, that's when mistakes can happen. Mistakes will either cost you refunds, tax dollars, or may cause you problems from the IRS later.
Tom O'Sabin with the National Association of Tax Professionals recommends filing a 6-month extension by midnight to give you and your tax preparer the opportunity to prepare it correctly. But in order to avoid mounting penalties, O'Sabin advises it's best to send a payment to the IRS before the deadline that best approximates what you think is due. Taking a look at last year's tax return could help.
If you owe money and you don't have that postmark today, the IRS is going to charge you interest and, failure to pay penalties that are going to start assessing tomorrow.
If you're afraid you can't pay, O'Sabin says filing is still critical.
The IRS wants to work with you to get your tax obligations satisfied. And in doing that, the first thing they've got to have is the tax return.
And for those late filers who are due a refund, there are no penalties for missing the deadline and possibly some benefits.
You can wait up to 3 years after the original due date to file your return. And not only will the IRS give you your refund, they'll pay you interest on that refund.
But make sure you file before the 3 years is up. Otherwise, you forfeit your refund.
The IRS says it's already received more than 100 million tax returns. For those looking for last-minute free resources, IRS Direct File and IRS Free File are 2 options. Anyone can use IRS Free File to submit an extension of time regardless of income. In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
And don't forget, coming up right after This Is Now is Investigates TV. Here's a look at what they're working on.
On the next Investigate TV Plus,
I thought, I want to be the change I want to see in the world.
A shortage of vital drugs inspires a mother to take matters into her own hands. We reveal how it's helping families across the country.
All right, let's take a live look outside over Punch Bowl. Beautiful day today. The front has moved through Kauai, but there's still a threat of wet weather for some parts of the state. Guy Hagi's going to have your full forecast after this quick break.
Aloha on this Monday. The cold front that swamped Kauai and Oahu over the weekend is slowly weakening, slowly pulling away to the northeast, but there's still a chance for some heavy rainfall for Maui County. You can see most of the rain, however, moving away. Still, though, the flood watch remains posted there for Maui County, so it's also a first alert weather day. Now, as the day progresses, drier conditions will take over and will likely lift those first alert conditions. But for right now, we're seeing drier conditions for Kauai and Oahu. Still a first alert weather day for Maui, and again, the rain is fleeting and it is pulling away, and there will likely be some leftover showers for Hawaii Island through the night through tomorrow. Now, the surf is on the rise. Heads up. It's going to be big, it's going to be dangerous, and it to likely be probably pretty choppy and beat up because west winds spell unfavorable conditions, choppy onshore and sloppy for northwest and to some extent south shores. But we'll keep an eye on that as well because it'll likely clean up as going into the week. So it's a first alert weather day only for Maui County. We'll see drier conditions for Kauai and Oahu, and those drier conditions take over for the rest of the week, where trade winds picking up to moderate speeds on Thursday.
As Maui continues to recover from the wildfires, Casey Lund takes us up country where businesses say they've been depending on locals to keep them afloat these past 8 months.
It is absolutely gorgeous up here, and one of the big draws for people to come up country from places like Kahului is the fresh produce. And one of the big draws at Kula Country Farms are the fresh picked strawberries. As a matter of fact, that's why one Lahaina resident who lost absolutely everything in the fires keeps coming back here to support.
Occasionally when I come up here, I definitely want to stop here for the strawberries. They're definitely fresh.
Ryan Nishimura knows the importance of supporting local businesses like Kula Country Farms. The food truck he worked at that was parked in Lahaina is essentially all he has left after August 8th, but it's certainly not all he'll remember.
People kind of froze. They didn't want to move anywhere. But finally somebody actually ran over some telephone poles and trees, and it was this fire burning on both sides. My car was just starting to melt too. I was trying to get out of there. I lived right down below the Pioneer Mill, and well, that day I was home. I didn't realize it was gonna come down. I left there a split second, could see flames coming down. people were just running for their lives, and I could see my neighbor's house burning. And I thought I was going to pretty much be gone.
He knows, despite everything, he's lucky to be alive.
We're in Lahaina at Island Grocery Depot.
Okay.
So right in the industrial area. So yeah, there was a wall right there. Actually, kind of saved our truck, because people actually thought the grocery kind of burned down, but it actually didn't.
And that food truck that was miraculously spared by the flames may be a lifeline.
Kind of felt, when at first, everybody said don't come here, but I was kind of like in between. But then I was like, we really need the business here, and it's because after the fire, it pretty much was really dead.
People were really concerned. Everybody was trying to help everybody out. It always affects. It doesn't make any difference, whatever goes on, but you have to think positive and be positive for everybody.
Meredith Seeley's family runs Kula Country Farms. Without local customers like Ryan, they'd be in a much different place. And because of that strong Kama'aina support, they're able to give back.
We've done a lot, to help out whatever we can. My brothers donated some vegetables and stuff they needed, More likely like strawberries and stuff, but
It's a symbiotic relationship, neighbors helping neighbors. That's also alive and well just down the road. I'm sure you noticed at least a small drop in business.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, especially from the tourist side. But as far as the locals, we're so grateful that that we still had them come in, their support.
Fong's General Store off Kula Highway has been in Kevin Kihara's family for generations. This place is rich with history.
Local traffic was what really kept us going before COVID and, in general. So even with the loss of tourist traffic, we still had the support of the local people. We try to keep our prices low. And, when people come in, they're surprised at, how low the prices are. And I guess I kind of jokingly tell them that, we're not here to make money, but just to talk story.
Maui, all of Maui, is working to heal. But it will take all of us and our friends from far away.
Before, I had mainland visitors from Canada and all that. They all come back and say hi to me. Thank you.
to get there.
But it came back, We keep open. We try to think positive, like we keep trying. That's all we can do. Keep busy.
Kula Country Farms says, like many of the other businesses we talked to up country here, that the fires didn't impact them all that much. Of course, they saw a dip in business, but it was really the local community that kept them afloat during the tough times. They mahalo them and echo the message that they're open for visitors and ready to serve. Reporting in Kula, I'm Casey Lund, Hawaii News Now.
Well, the best and the brightest rising stars in women's basketball will hear their names called tonight in the WNBA draft. Record breaker Caitlin Clark is expected to be the first pick less than 10 days after playing in her second straight Final Four. Jan Crawford reports.
You make a lot of jokes about women's sports, don't you, Michael?
In a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live ahead of tonight's WNBA draft, Caitlin Clark roasted Weekend Update co-host Michael Shea for running down women's basketball.
I can't wait to give this to my girlfriend.
You don't have a girlfriend, Michael.
She also gave a shout out to those who paved the way.
Thanks to all the great players like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Cynthia Cooper, the great Dawn Staley, and my basketball hero, Maya Moore. These are the women that kicked down the door so I could walk inside.
Clark is expected to go to the Indiana Fever as the top pick of the draft after an historic season where she shattered Division I scoring records and took her Iowa team to the NCAA National Championship game.
Martin on the drive. O'Grady gets denied. Cardoso gobbles it up.
But Camila Cardozo and the University of South Carolina capped their undefeated season with the title. 18.7 million people tuned in, making it the most watched basketball game, men or women, in 5 years. And Cardozo, named the game's most outstanding player, is also expected to be a top pick, along with 2021 national champion Cameron Brink of Stanford and Angel Reese of LSU. But for many, Clark is the headline, and with good reason.
She's already having a very tangible impact on ticket sales.
Ben Pickman covers the WNBA for The Athletic.
It's not just a matter of great players suddenly appearing over this last year, but It is from media companies. It is from outward brands supporting players. There's just overall more investment in the sport, and that is translating into further interest.
Jan Crawford, CBS News.
What a time for women's basketball. All right, thousands laced up for Sunday's Hapalua Half Marathon through Honolulu. The race started at 6 a.m. on Kalakaua Avenue near Waikiki Walls. Pro athlete Jacob Thompson was the first to cross the finish line at Kapiolani Park with a time of 1 hour and 5 minutes. That's insane.
Wow.
About 8 minutes later, Callie Thackeray, the top female, finished. The race was prep for a big run for her come July. She's going to be representing Great Britain in the Paris Olympics. She's, of course, going to be running the marathon.
And we also had some H&N representation, both our executive producer, Anthony Ferreira, and Miss Ashley.
And Stephanie.
And Stephanie as well. Flex your time, Ash. What was your time?
No. It was nothing. It was good.
She's just being humble, guys. She crushed her personal records, her goals. We are so proud of you. Congratulations to all the finishers.
Aloha.